Hello everybody, my name is Rebecca and today I'm going to be talking about plastic waste and why it needs to end. The purpose of my speech today is to persuade and educate my classmates about the impact of plastic waste on the environment and humans, and also just to share some tips on what you can do to help reduce plastic use. Does anyone know how much plastic waste is dumped into the ocean every year? Just take a guess and you're welcome to shout out an answer. 8 million metric tons are dumped in the ocean every year, based on research provided by plasticpollution.org. This photo is taken from Manila Bay in the Philippines, just one example of many beach shores that are filled with plastic waste. Plastic pollution is impacting all life on Earth. Worldwide, disposable plastic packaging will outweigh fish population by 2050. Despite the heavy use of plastic in daily life, now is the time for people in government to enforce change by reducing or eliminating plastic production because of the detrimental impacts on the environment. Today I'd like to discuss 5 topics with you. Its definition of plastic and the types, the impact on the environment, why we need to drastically reduce or end plastic waste, what you can do, and then share some websites just to help you learn. So what is plastic? Plastics are linked molecules called polymers. This is why plastics begin with poly, such as polyethylene, polystyrene, and polypropylene. Polymers are often made of carbon, hydrogen, and sometimes oxygen, nitrogen, chlorine, fluorine, sulfur, phosphorus, and silicone. And so the term plastic encompasses all these various polymers. Now, there are 7 classifications for plastic, and they're all listed here. All plastic items created come from these 7 categories, as you can see, and this includes all types of bottles, construction materials like pipes, electrical conduit, straws, plastic forks that we use every day, spoons and bags. So this is the story of plastics. The packaging that goes along with those endless purchases. We buy a soda, we sip it for a few minutes, we toss it away. We eat a bag of potato chips, we finish them, then throw their permanent packaging away. We buy produce, we take it out of the unnecessary plastic wrap, then throw its permanent packaging away. The cycle is endless, and it happens countless times every single day. But here's the catch. There is no away. So where does it all go? Back into the environment. According to a report published in Science Advances, only 9% of the world's plastic has been recycled. 12% is incinerated, which goes back into our air, and the remaining 79% remains in the environment. What happens to our marine life? Well, if you notice here, according to the study of Plymouth University, plastic pollution affects at least 700 marine species, while some estimates suggest that at least 100 million marine mammals are killed every year from plastic pollution. And here's another interesting point. Another recent study found that people who regularly eat seafood ingest up to 11,000 tiny pieces of plastic each year. So how is that possible? Well, plastics in the ocean break down into small segments that end up on every mile of beach throughout the world. These teeny pieces may not even be visible, so it's really hard to determine how much we ingest. But chemicals added to plastics are absorbed in human bodies, some of these compounds have been found to alter hormones or other potential human health effects. Isn't that crazy? Floating plastic waste can survive for thousands of years. And it also serves as little mini transportation devices for invasive species, disrupting habitats. And then, lastly, plastic is buried into landfills, which can leach harmful chemicals that spread into underground water. Yet, some still say that we still need plastic. People say that nations cannot afford to regulate an industry, in that the United States alone is projected to be worth $1 trillion in packaging by 2020, and employees up to 1.1 million people are involved. And that was data that I found from a Smithers Peria. Yet dealing with plastic waste is highly costly. Removing plastic litter, for example, from the West Coast costs taxpayers $520 million a year. If you notice here, these are the top 8 plastic manufacturers. The numbers are in the billions, and I'll just give you a moment to review that. ExxonMobil, $236 billion. 35.4, 40, 63 billions, 61.6, 17.8, Chevron, 13.4 billion, and then $7.9 billion. So in week 3 of our class, we learned the definition of values, ethics, and morals. And it stated that morals are the prevailing standards of behavior that enable people to live cooperatively in groups and sanctions what is right and wrong and acceptable. Yet, morality requires that people sacrifice their own short-term interests for the benefit of society. So the argument is this: is money made from the plastic industry morally worth the impacts on all life on Earth? Well, let's review the facts. 8 million tons of plastic is dumped in the oceans every year. Plastic constitutes approximately 90% of trash floating in our oceans today, with 46,000 pieces of plastic per square mile. It takes 450 to 1,000 years for plastic to degrade. And again, 1 million birds and 100,000 marine mammals are killed every year because of all the plastics that are in the ocean. And again, human life is also impacted, as because we eat seafood, our health is impacted as well. So what can you do? For one, choose to reuse. Stop using bottles and DVDs and music CDs. I mean, we're in 2018. Everything's electronic now, which is actually a good thing. Try carrying reusable items with you, like utensils, just to avoid using disposable plastic cutlery. Bring travel mugs when you go get coffees. That way it'll help reduce plastic lids and cups in the ocean. Recycle, 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 please, whenever you can. And lastly, become aware. Learn more about it. There's plenty of websites out there that can educate yourself and your family. Here's a few to keep in mind: the Plastic Pollution Coalition, Rethink Plastic, Save Our Seas, plasticpollution.org, and then One More Generation. I found these to be most helpful in help educating myself. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to any comments or questions that you have this week, and I wish everyone the best in their presentations. Thanks.